But right now, let's talk to our man, Daniel Jeremiah. DJ, watch him on NFL Network. He's got podcasts. He's got the Move the Sticks, which is his Twitter handle, and this guy is money. And, by the way, give him credit again, he correctly handicapped the Falcons would get Takk McKinley in the first round.
There it is. And there it is. One of the best.
Look at
One
you,
of the best.
Daniel. I don't know if you expected them to trade up, but what did you think of Takk McKinley coming out of this draft?
Well, first of all, this is why you do a 2-month draft show on a network, because at the end of the day, you will have predicted somebody correctly somewhere after like 9 million tries at it. I was a big Takk McKinley fan just because of the combination of just a crazy motor and the burst and the production that he had. I mean, I think he's somebody that's well suited to have success at the next level.
DJ, if you look at the Falcons draft with Takk and Riley and all these players, to me it seems like they got better. But looking amongst the other teams in the NFC South, who has caught up to the Falcons in this division after the draft?
Well, I think all those teams got better. I don't know that any of them are able to completely close the gap. I mean, I think a lot of people are pointing to Tampa and the combination of what they've done in free agency as well as the draft. I mean, I thought that was a steal for them to get O.J. Howard where they did. Obviously, the Saints had a lot of picks, but you also have to offset you losing Brandon Cooks, who's a pretty explosive member of that offense. So I think the Saints will be better. I think when you kind of look at it on the whole, I think the thing with Carolina is you're just waiting to see what Cam Newton's health is going to be.
Right.
I love McCaffrey and I love Curtis Samuel. Definitely more dynamic and more explosive with those two guys in the mix. But you got to get your quarterback healthy and ready to go for me to say that they've completely bounced back. But if you're going to give me one team, I would probably say Tampa with what they've done in the offseason.
Mm-hmm. Now, Randy mentioned Duke Riley. As Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network joins us at Move the Sticks, by the way, on Twitter. We talked to Ed Ogeron a few weeks ago. He loves, obviously, his guy. But Duke Riley, can he just plug in and start this year?
He's a stud. I mean, it's so fascinating the way it's happened there with those one-year starters at linebacker. I think it's 3 years in a row. You had Quan Alexander, you had Deion Jones, you guys know well, and then you had Duke Riley, guys that played kind of that same position, one-year starters. And the thing I love about Duke Riley is one of the cool things with the technology now is we have these systems we can go through and you can just sort their production. So I wanted to see what his production was like before this year, just to see him on special teams. I mean, this dude is hell on wheels covering kicks. So I think for sure you get him involved in sub situations because he can really run and cover, and he's going to be a dynamo on special teams while he's getting ready to learn the defense and be able to plug in there. But, man, they've got young, fast linebackers now.
Hey, DJ, going around the league, these young quarterbacks, we all know that the word on we want them to red shirt, but we all know that's not going to be true. Tell me, which quarterback do you think will be ready to play the soonest?
Well, I stuck with Deshaun Watson throughout the process, and I'll stick with that. I think, it's an adjustment coming out of that offense, but, I think he's just from a maturity standpoint, a poise standpoint, I think he'll be ready to go before any of these other guys. Now, the challenge is going to be that Houston offense. Brock Osweiler never really got comfortable in it, so it might take a little bit of time from that standpoint. But I just have a hard time when I look at a depth chart. Right. And I see Tom Savage sitting in front of him thinking that's going to last very long.
And Mitch Trubisky also played in the shotgun for Larry Fedora. As Daniel Jeremiah joins us here from NFL Network on the WadeFord.com hotline. Were you as blown away as everybody else with Chicago making that move? Because it really seems like San Francisco swindled them.
Yeah, I tried being on live television when that goes down, and they come to you for analysis that you saw sitting on the desk. I was shocked just because everything I had heard coming out of there was that no, they were really happy with Mike Glennon, and they wanted to give him a shot here and really address the defense in the draft. And of course, they kept the cards close to the vest. I like Trubisky. It's tricky because you say, okay, well, he's going to need some time. He's going to need some time before he's ready to go. But the biggest knock on him is that he hadn't played much. So he has to play. You have to get him out there and get him some reps because he just simply hadn't had a ton of them. So even though they played Glennon all that money, and they've said this is Glennon's year, and Glennon has kind of stated this is his year, I'll be surprised if we don't see Trubisky within the first half of the season.
Hey, DJ, I was looking at, I follow you on Twitter, was looking at some of your tweets talking about what's going on up there in New York. What are the Jets doing, and are they going to hold Todd Bowles accountable for what they're doing as far as this tanking situation?
Well, I mean, I said it on our draft coverage. I thought they had the worst roster in the NFL, and then they've continued to lose people since then. So I think it's a really bad roster. I know you're referencing the tweet where I had an executive from another team tell me he thought this was, if not the worst, one of the worst rosters he's seen in a decade. And I got a bunch of other texts from people around the league after this latest round of vets they've decided to part with. I just how you hold a head coach responsible at this point in time. They've got a couple of good young pieces on defense. I like Jamal Adams, who they brought in, and Leonard Williams is a stud. But when you look at their offensive line, their weaponry, Josh McCown's not in a situation to have a lot of success with what he has around him. I don't see how they're going to win many games, if any.
We had a chance to debrief with Daniel Jeremiah after the draft. He's a big high on Duke Riley. If you guys are just tuning in here, talking about some of the moves that were made. The quarterback battles, Trubisky. Mahomes was kind of fun to watch on Gruden's thing on ESPN. But go back a year, and we watched Hard Knocks on HBO, and you look at the Rams, and I'm like, is that guy ever going to become a quarterback at the NFL level?
Yeah, well, that's Sean McVay's challenge right now, to get Jared Goff up and running. It was we thought he was going to take some time, and I was kind of rolling with Carson Wentz through the whole process, but
right.
I did think that Jared Goff had the tools to eventually develop into that guy, but you didn't see a whole lot that got you inspired based off last season. I do think they've added some nice pieces, so they're about to play the wide receiver spot here. I think Robert Woods is a little underrated and will be good for them. I like Gerald Everett, who they got in the draft, Cooper Kupp. So they've got a decent young nucleus now. They get Todd Gurley back rolling.
Right.
But, yeah, this is all about Jared Goff. And you got to remember now, everybody talks about Kirk Cousins in San Francisco. Hey, if Goff does not play well this year, I would not be surprised to see them get in on Kirk Cousins with McVay's relationship there as well.
Yeah, well, the thing about Goff was when he went to the Rams, they had the worst offensive staff in the entire National Football League. But another player that's getting making his rounds right now is Jeremy Maclin right now. I think he's leaving Baltimore today without a deal. What's the best fit for him? Is it Buffalo or is it Baltimore?
Well, I thought with Baltimore, what would make more sense for them would be Eric Decker.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Baltimore, what they have field stretchers and guys that can do stuff after the catch. I think when you look at Perriman and Mike Wallace, that's kind of their MO. I think Decker would kind of give them a real physical guy that you can use on a variety of routes. You can kind of run the whole tree there. Maclin is a good player. I thought he got a little bit overpaid when he went to Kansas City,
right.
and I think you eventually saw them say, they're not going to continue to pay that price when they have some of the good young players around them. But that's it. I think it's Buffalo. I know they're not a great team, but I think put him back up there with his buddy LaShawn McCoy, Tyrod Taylor. You don't know what the health situation is with Sammy Watkins. I think he fits there better.
Man, Jeremy Maclin, fantasy football killer. It's Daniel Jeremiah with us here from NFL Network. Daniel, great stuff with personnel and just talking NFL at large. Haven't had him on in a long time. So at Move the Sticks, by the way, is his Twitter handle. Going back to Kansas City, I mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid, everything a lot of people said, hey, this is like Brett Favre. You're getting like this unpolished gem and the guy's got a cannon. How soon before Alex Smith is out the door? Or do we even see Patrick Mahomes under center this year?
I would be shocked if we saw him this year. Guys, his footwork, just basic footwork, he is light years away. Not even close. So that is a long-term project, in my opinion. This is not this year. I don't think it's next year. I think this is a long-term play, and you got to have some serious job security to be able to pull off that move. And
right.
That's one of the few places where GM and head coach do have the time to let this kid sit and develop.
But you feel it's worth it, though, to take him in the first round the way they did?
Well, no. I didn't have him as one of my top 50 players in the draft. So You're talking about trading up and making that move for a guy, and I look at what potentially could be in the quarterback draft next year, and I would not have paid that price.
Hey, DJ, going back to last year's Falcons draft, did you see DJ and Keanu and guys like this making the impact that they had on this team?
Well, really, really explosive players and found the right roles for them. So Keanu, I had him in my first round sequence, so I thought he was a really good player and was a tone setter, a tempo setter. And then you've got a situation where I thought you had really good players that found great situations and great scheme fits, and they're rolling. So no, I wouldn't say that I was incredibly surprised. I would say it was a little bit better than I anticipated, but fast, explosive, twitched up dudes, they work.
Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network joins us. It's been a bit of a debate here just because it hasn't been done yet, and traditionally the stars will get their deal going into the last year of their contract. I mean, do running backs, are they a dime a dozen growing on trees? Because we haven't had a lot of 1,000-yard rushers. I'm talking about Devonta Freeman. If you're the GM, do you just give him this deal this year, or do you make him sing for his supper?
Well, I mean, that's unfortunately for that position, that's what you have to do. You don't want to lock into guys until you absolutely have to, and that sucks. And it's brutal for the player. But I kind of can get on board with the strategy from a team perspective, just because you're one injury away, and you don't want to be locked into something you can't get out of or you're stuck to. So as bad as that sucks from a player standpoint, I kind of get it from a team perspective.
DJ, guy that you had, a lot of people in last year's draft before he was injured, the top 5 player, Jalen Smith out in Dallas. He's wearing the brace and everything. They say he's getting more range of motion. How important would he be to that team if he's, say, 80% the player he was at Notre Dame?
Well, I think he could have made a case he's the best player in the draft last year if he's totally healthy. And I was at the Fiesta Bowl when he had the knee injury. It was just brutal. But, yeah, you're talking about adding a Patrick Willis type guy. If you get him back healthy, I'm not a doctor, but from everything I was told, through the draft process, that's about as bad as it gets in terms of the nerve situation. So, man, I hope he comes back, and I see that same guy I saw at Notre Dame. He sure was fun to watch.
Sam Darnold, the band right now. I mean, you look at USC, because obviously everyone's buzzing over the Rose Bowl performance, but is that the guy? It's like everyone's going to be number one next year on him.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a special player. Right now, coming into the year, I would probably stack him up. Darnold 1, and then you've got really, Josh Allen from Wyoming and Josh Rosen from UCLA right there. I mean, you've got 3 really, really intriguing guys. But, yeah, coming into the season, I'd have Darnold top of that stack. But watch out for the kid from Wyoming.
All right, big guy. Daniel, it's always great stuff. Of course, you can check it out. You got you got podcasts. When do people find you on television and stuff?
Yeah, we got podcasts going. I'll be popping in occasionally on Total Access here in the off season. But yeah, the best place is just kind of find me on social media, Move the Sticks, and I'll have links to all the podcasts that me and Bucky Brooks are doing.
All right, big guy.
Thanks a lot, D.
He had us taking tack. He's that good. All right, DJ, have a good one, brother.
All right, fellas. Take care.
Take care, man.